I should probably turn on audio, right? That would work as well. So how are we doing, guys? I know this is a different, not a different topic. I've talked about something like this before. But this is one of those hard to wrap your head around topics. So I hope everybody's doing all right. If you aren't, I don't know if this is the stream for you today. This is not going to be an easy one. This is not going to be a good one. This is going to be one of those ones that sucks. And I don't think there's any ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I don't think there's any way around that. That is just the way this is going to have to be. So, what has happened recently has made me decide to do this. Well, we have a lot more shootings here in the United States. That's cool. Not really. It is not cool. So, one of the things that we're hearing a lot right now is why? What is the reasoning behind this? Why are there more shootings currently? Why is this happening? I don't necessarily have answers for that. I do know that a good bit of it right now has to do with why certain people feel emboldened to do things like this. I think that that's a big part of it. But it's not the only part. And it has taken me a little bit to actually gather some sources for this to make sure that I could actually do this. Normally I would have done this way earlier, but I wanted to make sure that I was coming in with as much information as I could. It has nothing to do with mental health, by the way. It has nothing to do with people being nuts. That's a thing that people think, and it's a thing that data since like 2010 has been against. So, allow me to make sure that I've got my sources available, just in case I need them, because I probably will. There's a few things that I want to get out of the way first and foremost, though. A few very important things. Okay? The first one is we had a bit of a yikesy tweet from somebody who I've never really had a ton of respect for, but I know a lot of people do. So, let's start with this, and maybe this will open everything up inconveniently, as it were. We're beginning, unfortunately, with a tweet from Neil deGrasse Tyson because he decided to chime in on this. He has since apologized for this tweet, so at least take that in perspective. But what was his take on this? In the past 48 hours, the United States horrifically lost 34 people to mass shootings. On average, across 48 hours, we also lose 500 to medical errors, 300 to the flu, 250 to suicide, 200 to car accidents, and 40 to homicide via handgun. Often our emotions respond more to spectacle than to data. Now, while this is possibly the most tactless way you could have gone about this, because this is basically just whataboutism, right? Like, I've had some people tell me that it's not a charitable read, but I think Neil realizes that was actually how his post came across. Because, as I said, Neil has since apologized for this, really, really dumb tweet, as it were. Where is my source document? That is going to be very important for this. So, let me list my problems that I had with this tweet, first of all. One is whataboutism, and fallacies get under my skin. They do. Tu quoque really aggravates me. Say, oh, why are you getting upset about this? What about the medical errors? Aren't you upset about those? Well, guess what? I can be pissed off about every single one of those. I can be pissed off about medical errors. I can be pissed off about the flu. I can be pissed off about suicide, car accidents, and homicide via handgun. But only a couple of those are the fault of a few individuals, at a time at least. So, there's that. Bad fucking take. Incredibly bad take. And if you think you shouldn't apologize for blatant whataboutism, then I'm sorry, you have no idea how thinking works. So let's go ahead and begin And I had a different capture for this, but apparently I've lost those. So, let's go ahead and begin this with his apology and then move forward from there. Because again, I think that is probably the best way to go about all of this. So, starting with his thing. Oh wow, that is glitchy. That is very glitchy. Let's fix that. There we are. Much fixed. Incredibly. Well, hold on. There's one person in the chat who just said something that I need to correct real quick. Malik Zareth, is psychopathic thinking not related to mental illness? Well, actually, no, it's not. Because the term psychopath and psychopathic thinking in any capacity that you're trying to argue it is actually not even considered a thing in the DSM-5 anymore. The term psychopath and sociopath were dropped as of the DSM-4. Please catch up with the rest of the medical community. All right, now that we're there. So, on to the tweet storm thing. Yesterday, a tweet I posted in reaction to the horrific mass shootings in America over the previous 48 hours spawned mixed and highly critical response, one of which was mine. Not that I'm saying that Neil gave a shit about what I said. If you missed it, I offered a short list of largely preventable causes of death, along with their average 2-day death toll in the United States. They significantly exceeded the death toll from the 2 days of the mass shootings, including the number of people who on average die from handgun homicides every day. I then noted that we tend to react emotionally to spectacular incidences of death, with the implication that the more common causes of death trigger milder responses within us. My intent was to offer objectively true information that might help shape conversations and reactions to preventable ways we die. Where I miscalculated was that I genuinely believed that the tweet would be helpful to anyone trying to save lives in America. No, the fuck it wasn't. What I learned from the range of reactions is that for many people, some information, my tweet in particular, can be true but unhelpful, especially at a time when many people are either still in shock or trying to heal or both. Yes. Let's talk about the tu quoque fallacy. Let's talk about how it functions, and let's talk about why you do not utilize it in discourse. So, tu quoque is a fallacy that essentially says, what about you? It could be used in more ways than that. Whataboutism is an extrapolation on tu quoque. We usually call it whataboutism. I like to refer to it by the fallacy's name because you can find more documented stuff on that. I keep on saying stuff for Twitch, but I'm not live on Twitch right now. Why are people following me on Twitch right now? I'm not live at the moment. That's strange. So, now, here's how the fallacy functions and why you don't do it, and this is the mistake that Neil made. The fallacy functions as such. You, let's just say you as in the live chat, you and I are having a debate. And I say, why did you do X? As an example. Why did you steal a cookie from the cookie jar? And then your response is to say, well, why did you drink the last gallon of milk? We're basically roommates right now, right? We're YouTube roommates. And we're bitching at each other. Now, even though you have addressed what I did with the milk, or you're asking me to address it, the conversation was about the cookie. And when I say, well, what do we do about the cookie upset me. And you say, what about the milk? We've gotten nowhere. The milk may be, at some point, part of resolving this issue. You may have eaten the cookie to piss me off because I took the milk. But that doesn't have to do with the conversation here. At that point, your answer would have been, I ate the cookie because you took the milk. That gets us somewhere. However, the statement, why did I eat the cookie? Why did you eat the milk? That gets us nowhere. It gets us nowhere in conversation. It stops the conversation and jumps it to another one, Gish Gallop style. It also changes the nature of the interlocutors. In the interlocutors, you have the one person questioning the other, and the other person answers. But when they fight with a question back, this whataboutism, the conversation then derails from its original purpose. This is the reason this is a fallacy, and the reason that you don't engage in that fallacy. I am getting a lot of Twitch notifications. Why? I'm not live on Twitch. Okay. So, the reason I bring that up is because that fallacy itself, that's like probably the most utilized fallacy. The most utilized one. Also, false appeals to reductios are the other ones. So, why am I talking about fallacies? Because philosophy is my thing, and if you don't like it, why the hell are you here on this channel? Every Sados, I see what you did there. I see what you're doing over there. I see what you did. Oh my god, alias fake name. Okay, we're gonna have to kill that. We're gonna have to kill that noise. Where's the alert box noise? Where are you? You guys can't be trusted. I can't trust any of you with that. Anywho. So, I'm gonna try keeping it up for a little bit. That said, so now that we know how that works, and now that we know that tweet, while yikesy and problematic and stupid and tone deaf and everything else that it negatively was, at the very least, Neil did apologize for it because he recognized what he was doing and recognized that it was a problem. So, I wanted to address that because I was one of the people who responded to his tweet, and if I didn't address that, that would kind of upset me. So now that's taken out. I wanted to follow on Twitch before you forgot. You brought the attention to Twitch. What did you expect? I have no idea what I expect anymore. I really don't. All right, so now there's a couple things that I want to get out of the way as well real quick. These are the obligatory things because I'm a YouTuber and I have to do them. First of all, if you have not hit the bell notification icon... Yeah, that one up there. Hi. Are you enjoying hitting that bell? Is that what's happening? Wait, what are you doing? Are you... Oh, okay, yeah, no, just keep your ass in my face. That's fine. That's fine. This is fine. This is absolutely fine. But at least the information's right. Hit the notification bell. All right. That said, we've got that. We also happen to have the subscribe thing. If you have not subscribed already, please do so. And at least the view here is somewhat less lewd. Okay. Those things are out of the way. There's also this one, Patreon and stuff, because YouTube's cutting funding and all that other fun stuff. Okay, cool. The obligatory shilling is done. The obligatory shilling is done and out of the way. I've done all of that now. It's all done. So, what is being blamed for these shootings? What is being blamed for the murder? What is being blamed for this? I thought we had left most of this crap away, but of course, we couldn't. Let's go ahead and see. You guys can't be trusted with anything. So let's go ahead and see what our lovely president thinks.
We must recognize that the internet has provided a dangerous avenue to radicalize, disturbed minds.
He's right about that one, at least. I'm sorry, but 8chan and Pol are pretty fucking toxic places.
And perform demented acts. We must shine light on the dark recesses of the internet.
Again, 8chan and Pol exist.
And stop mass murders before they start. The internet, likewise, is used for human trafficking, illegal drug distribution, and so many other heinous crimes. The perils of the internet and social media cannot be ignored, and they will not be ignored.
Yeah, so far we agree. However, here's the thing. Here's the problem with this. So there was an argument brought up in chat earlier that guns are tools. And I'm willing to accept that argument. I'm 100% willing to do so. The difference between tools, though, is a tool's utility. So what can a gun be used for as a tool? Well, self-defense. That's actually a lot of you. I live in the South. That's I myself have a weapon. That's good utility. We have coyotes here. Like, if I go out and there's a coyote with rabies, which we've seen, they've literally come up onto my porch, then yeah, no, having some method to defend myself is kind of important. So yeah, no, I get that. And that's not even counting if somebody armed were to try to come into the house. That's just talking about the local wildlife. So, no, I'm willing to accept the guns as tools argument. That's fine. I have no problem with that. But in accepting that argument, I have to also accept the internet as a tool argument. Which means that if you're going to try to blame the internet for shootings, you're going to have to get a little more nuanced than that. You're going to have to approach this with a little more nuance than just the internet bad.
We must stop the glorification of violence in our society. This includes the gruesome and grisly video games that are now commonplace.
Everyone in the chat. Did everyone hear it? Please tell me they heard it. If you heard it in the chat, please press H. And if you didn't hear the dumbest thing, please press G. As you do. This is where we are currently. The chat's very H right now. It is incredibly H. $2 super chat. I thought Donald Trump was anti-PC. Guess I was wrong. Yep. The chat is incredibly H. Incredibly H. Also, there was a $10 donation from Zalrock earlier that I did not catch. Let me make sure that I've got that real quick because I don't want to make the mistake of not catching that. Cyrus, why is Restream pinging people to your Twitch when you're live on YouTube? I forgot to change my Restream. That's why people are following me on Twitch. I forgot to change it. I am sorry. That was my fault. My fault. Completely my fault. Okay. Let's continue with this statement.
It is too easy today for troubled youth to surround themselves with a culture that celebrates violence. We must stop or substantially reduce this, and it has to begin immediately.
All right, so there's more to his statement. There is more to it. I believe I actually have it over here. Now, granted, this is WAPO. This is Washington Post. They are more left-leaning. If that is your shtick, then neat, but I did want to go ahead and give that dissertation for source first, depending on how they decide to edit this.
This is mental illness. These are really people that are very, very seriously mental.
Try it again.
Look at both of these cases. This is mental illness. These are really people that are very, very seriously mentally ill.
First, we must do a better job of identifying and acting on early warning signs. We must stop the glorification of violence in our society. This
is from the same thing, just a different angle.
Video games that are now commonplace. We must reform our mental health laws to better identify mentally disturbed individuals who may commit acts of violence and make sure those people not only get treatment, but when necessary, involuntary confinement.
If you heard the dumb thing again, please press H. If you didn't catch it, press G. And the chat had about that. There are a few G's, though. There are a few G's. So, let's go ahead and address why that's a dumb statement. First from argumentative sake. And then after argumentative sake, we're going to get into sourcing. First of all, in his statement, His statement, specifically, if we identify somebody with these proclivities, then involuntarily lock them up. Locking somebody up when they have not yet committed a crime. For the forward 99, Lemongrass, no one's going to point out how Trump saying these folks were mentally ill further ostracized people with mental illness. Oh, no, trust me, I'm getting to that. So, he has said that involuntarily,
not only get treatment, but when necessary, involuntary confinement.
Involuntary confinement for people who have not yet committed a crime. So he's willing to blame video games and mental health and then use those to censor media and then involuntarily incarcerate people who have not yet committed crimes. All right. Now that we've gotten to the point where thought crime was brought up unironically, let's look at why these arguments are stupid. Let's start with mental illness. Because this is what we hear all the time, right? When it comes to this. You hear, what's the statement? America doesn't have a gun problem, it has a mental health problem. This statement is very, very problematic. Because the gun problem is not the amount of guns in the country. The gun problem is not people that have access to guns. The gun problem is the culture surrounding them. I agree, you need to be able to have a firearm. There should be a well-armed proletariat. I am not anti-gun. I am pro-Second Amendment. But whenever someone says that, it's a mental health issue, no, it's not. And as it turns out, because, as I've said before, more victims are mentally ill than perpetrators. This is true. But we don't even have to go into the more victims, more perpetrators, anything. We're going to just go ahead and do that thing I do. We're going to do a thing. Let's do a thing, guys. Let's go on an adventure. Because whenever somebody makes a patently stupid statement like that, I think I've said it before when I did my video on crime, that I'm not Cyrus the atheist, I'm not Cyrus the lefty, I'm not Cyrus the libcuck, which, I mean, I'm sure that there are some people that are thoroughly convinced that I am. No, I'm Cyrus the skeptic, and this is the reason why. This is the reason why. Because when we look at data, that's where we can actually get a clear picture of issues. So, everybody in the chat, before even looking over the whole document, what do you guys think is the percentage of perpetrators of mass shootings that are considered mentally ill? Give me some numbers. Just give me some numbers in chat. What is the percentage of mentally ill perpetrators? All right. Black Diamond says 75%. Your Boardness says 5%. Nimona Pool says 66%. 25% is Anthony Wright's guess. Outcast Trash says 35%. Paranormal Encyclopedia says less than 1%. Professor Glaceon, 20%. Megan Fox's giant boobs, 30%. Sorry, Megan Fox's giant boobs are a little more than that. Prism, 70%. Nightshade, 85%. Tony says 100%. All right. You all have cast your bets. I'm not going to put in a bet because I've already read the research a year ago. So let's zoom in on this a little bit so that we can get a better idea of what we're looking at. All right. Questa says this is a bet. No, you're not betting anything. You're not betting anything. All you get is bragging rights. So, let us scroll through this. In fact, actually, I remember a number. And because I remember a number, surprisingly, little population-level evidence supports the notion that individuals diagnosed with mental illness are more likely than anyone else to commit gun crimes. According to Applebaum, 25, less than 3% to 5% of United States crimes involve people with mental illness, and the percentages of crimes that involve guns are lower than the national average for people not diagnosed with mental illness. Databases that track gun homicides, such as the National Center for Health Statistics, similarly shows that fewer than 5% of the 120,000 gun-related killings in the United States between 2001 and 2010 were perpetrated by people diagnosed with mental illness. Less than 5%. I don't have to make an impassioned argument for people who suffer from mental illness. I don't have to make an impassioned statement. I don't have to take a philosophical position. I can sort the data. I can cite the data directly from a study that has been done, 9 years ago? Mass shootings and gun crimes, though, are correlates here. There's unpopular opinion is right. Many people are right here. There's a difference, though, between mass shootings and gun deaths. You are correct. There is a difference, but the difference is marginal. So, now that we have gotten that part out of the way... Actually, no. Mass shootings are accounted for in this. Making sure that I have that here. Where's the conclusion? Because I had that in here at one point. Alright, we're going to go right to conclusions to make that easier. Conclusions. Our brief overview suggests that connections between mental illness and gun violence are less causal and more complex than current U.S. public opinion and legislative action allow. U.S. gun rights advocates are fond of the phrase, guns don't kill people, people do. The finding cited earlier in this article suggests that neither guns nor people exist in isolation from social or historical influences. A growing body of data reveals that United States gun crime happens when guns and people come together in particular, in destructive ways. That is to say, gun violence in all its forms has a social context, and that context is not something that mental illness can describe, nor that mental health practitioners can be expected to address in isolation. So, the reason this functions, and the reason this works, gun crimes on their own only account for, or only have, about less than a 5% representation when it comes to this. When it comes to mass shootings in these conclusions, what we have instead is essentially saying that mental illness itself, or mental illness in general, can't account for this. To repeat, questioning the association between guns and mental illness in no way detracts from the dire need to stem gun crime. Yet, as fractious as the United States debate about gun rights plays out to an uncertain endpoint, it seems incumbent to find common ground beyond assumptions about whether particular assailants meet criteria for specific illness, or whether mental health experts can predict violence before it occurs. Predicting violence before it occurs does also seem to be a bit of an issue, because, again, Donald Trump seems to think that we should be able to incarcerate somebody before they've committed a crime. Our review also suggests that the stigma linked to guns and mental illness is complex, multifaceted, and itself politicized, inasmuch as the decisions about which crimes the United States culture diagnoses as crazy and which it deems as sane. They're driven much by politics and racial anxieties of particular cultural moments as by the workings of an individual's disturbed brain. Beneath seemingly straightforward questions of whether particular assailants meet criteria for particular mental illnesses lay ever-changing categories of race, gender, violence, and indeed diagnosis itself. How interesting, though, that we have that right there. That it seems that even here in the article it points out that it's not just remove the guns, you fix the violence. That doesn't happen. That's an unnuanced take. It ignores data. It ignores culture, for that matter. Does nothing. And then removing people who are mentally ill from the population in any way, shape, or form doesn't help you either. Does nothing. So, we know that this is not an anti-gun thing, and we know this is not an anti-mental illness thing. What about the video games? Maybe we can be anti-video games, considering that video games were also something that Trump brought up. Because I know that there are people on one side of the argument that bring up guns as the problem, and there are people on the other side of the argument that bring up mental illness as a problem. From the data, neither of those. But what about the video games? Well, we've been having this debate for a long time. Now, when do you guys think the most recent study on violence from video games in adolescence, which is where you would be forming these opinions in the first place, well, not all the time, but in many cases, where do you think we would actually find those studies? How early would we find those studies, or what was the most recent one? Would anybody like to guess what year the most recent study on this was done? D. Walsh says 2015. Cartoon Contrarian says 2017. Guessa says probably 2 decades ago. 2016, 2017, 17, 18, 19, 2008, 2014, 1980, 1982, 1998. All right. We've got a lot of guesses here. A lot of guesses. What if I told you that the answer was this year? What if I told you that these studies have been conducted as early as this year? Again. Violent video game engagement, from this report, is not associated with adolescents' aggressive behavior. Evidence from a registered report. Published here, February 2019. 6 months ago. The studies are done multiple times. They're done and reviewed multiple times. Abstract. In this study, we investigated the extent to which adolescents who spend time playing violent video games exhibit higher levels of aggressive behavior when compared to those who do not. I believe they used a sampling size of, 2,000? Fairly large sampling size. And if you guys want to read over the entire thing, I actually have it linked in the description. You guys can read over the entire study if you want. It is there for you to read. It said 1,004? 1,004 students. Okay, fair enough. So, fact of the matter is we have data on this. We have data on the violent video games thing. Multiple studies are produced over and over again. Multiple studies are produced on the mental illness thing. I've provided one of each. You guys can find more if you would like. So, there is a quote that I recently listened to. Listened to because it was through the audiobook. But I think it's pertinent. Who here, since we're going through this, Who here has actually read the Darth Plagueis books? Or the Darth Plagueis book, rather. Just the one book. Also, it even says in the study, despite the null findings identified in the present study, history gives us reason to suspect that the idea that violent video games drives aggressive behavior will remain an unsettled question for parents, pundits, and policymakers. Of course. So, if you guys haven't read the book, I highly suggest you do. I've been reading over it because after I did my Darth Bane video, I'm going to be working on a Darth Plagueis video to talk about things like virtue ethics. But to do that, I have to read through the entire book again. For those who don't know, if you're a Star Wars fan, Darth Plagueis was the person who trained Darth Sidious, and Darth Sidious was the Emperor from Star Wars Episode 4, 5, and 6. So, good book, one of the better of the old EU Paranormal Encyclopedia. Correct. The writing in it's great. So, I'm going to go ahead and quote something that was said in the book literally as I was prepping for this episode listening to the audiobook. This was one of the things that came up, and I figured it was pertinent to this. Plagueis says to Darth Sidious, "The climate begins to shift. The body politic begins to show signs of contagion, and the reemergence of anger and hatred and fear signal a loss of faith in the Force. The light is waning. Pushed into retreat by dark matter, and the universe begins to seem inimical instead of comforting. In such times, beings are wont to look for solutions in the enactment of harsh laws and the ostracism of strangers and warfare. Once the Republic has fallen, and the Jedi are but a memory, and beings have nowhere to turn but us, we can provide them with a sense of stability and order." Does everybody remember the video that I did on Computing Forever? When I did that video on Computing Forever, one of the points he made for why the world needs the Christian church is because it provides order and stability over and above everything else, even with all the restrictive crap that comes with it. This is the same argument, just being made by a Sith Lord. Darth Plagueis, the conservative Christian we need. So, why do I find that quote pertinent, given that it just came up randomly while I was getting things built for this episode? I think it makes sense. Because what are people doing right now as a result of this? Well, seeming to enact harsh laws on multiple sides. There are a lot of people that are saying ban all guns from the United States. They're the problem. There are people who are legitimately trying to push for that position. There are people who are trying to ban violent video games. Again. There are people, like our president, who seem to be putting forth the idea of pre-crime and thought crime as things that they would like to tackle. Harsh laws enacted here. But there's something else that was brought up. The ostracism of strangers and warfare. Well, aside from the fact that I've already had to deal with a bunch of people saying that, oh yeah, no, the new American Civil War is coming again, it will be glorious. There are a bunch of anecdotes, there are also a bunch of idiots. What's that other one? Ostracism of strangers. That's weird. That's really strange. Ostracism of strangers. Well, where would we find rhetoric where ostracism of strangers, let's just call them something else, somebody who's without, not within, so probably what, an illegal immigrant? That's a stranger. That also seems to be a narrative that's been pushed a lot. Well, where would we find that narrative? Where possibly would we be able to find that right now in our efforts to handle this? Well, I have an idea. Possibly the shooter's own manifesto? I'm sure we can find something in there. I'm sure that's a place we could find something. So, before I get into this, I know that YouTube is probably going to take this video down because they don't want anybody showing the manifesto or anything. They want to throw this stuff down because as far as they're concerned, that adds to their infamy. And you know what? I get that argument. I do. Isn't that the meme manifesto from Poll? Is it yikes time? It is. So, there are a few things to consider. As far as I am aware, it is 4 pages. As far as I am aware, I do not know if this is the shooter's manifesto itself. It popped up on Poll and on 8chan. So I'm not 100% certain if this is the El Paso shooter's manifesto. Please take that with a grain of salt. Would they actually cut you off midstream? They've done it to people before. With Pig, I believe they just cut it off afterwards. Jack and Quill, 8chan is a mistake. So, YouTube, I'm fairly certain will take this down. If they are taking down people who are looking at this manifesto, then chances are this is probably the one that they are trying everything in their power to not do, or to not take care of. If they do try to get rid of this video, neat. But it's already being uploaded to Facebook. It's already being uploaded to Mixer, to Smashcast. It's already going on to BitChute. Knocking out this video once isn't going to do any good for YouTube, if that's what they're attempting to do. So, let's go over this and see what we can find. With the knowledge that, again, YouTube, if you get rid of this video, remember, you lose everything before, which I think was important. You lose everything after, which I also think was important. And again, it's already on other platforms, so it's not like you removed it from the internet. You didn't manage it. Now, it begins with, in general, I support the Christchurch shooter and his manifesto. This attack is a response to the Hispanic invasion of Texas. They are the instigators, not me. In such times, beings are wont to look for solutions in the enactment of harsh laws, the ostracism of strangers, and warfare. MUI Pikachu, go ahead and DM me on Twitter. That's perfectly fine. If it's pertinent to the conversation, do so. I'm going to go ahead and open up my Twitter so that I can. Now, it says he's simply defending his country from cultural and ethnic replacement brought in by an invasion. Cultural and ethnic replacement. Okay. So we're back at it again. We're back at the Great Replacement myth. This thing that keeps on coming up over and over and over and over again. And it doesn't stop. For some reason, I keep on dealing with people that are convinced that the Great Replacement myth is a real thing that they need to be actively fighting against. And as we see here, sometimes they do it with violence. Some people will think this statement is hypocritical because of the nearly complete ethnic and cultural destruction brought onto the Native Americans by our European ancestors. But this just reinforces my point. The natives didn't take the invasion of Europeans seriously. And now what's left is just a shadow of what was. I'm fairly certain that they did take that invasion seriously. There were many violent fights there. The only difference is that we brought in things like diseases and better technology to fight. This person is literally being a historical revisionist through the course of his manifesto. My motives for this attack are not at all personal. Yes, the fuck they are. Actually, the Hispanic community was not my target before I read The Great Replacement. This manifesto will cover the political and economic reasons behind my attack, my gear, my expectations of what response this will generate, and my personal motivations and thoughts. In short, America is rotting from the inside out, and peaceful means to stop this seem to be nearly impossible. The inconvenient truth is that our leaders, both Democrat and Republican, have been failing us for decades. This is the same shit like with Steven Anderson saying that, what is it? Where he said that, oh yeah, no, he doesn't like Trump because Trump's not extreme enough for him. This is basically what we're getting. This is about as far as Pig Puncher got. Cool. Cool. And that's fine. My aim is to get a little farther than Pig Puncher did. Just a little bit. When on Fox News, talk about how video games don't cause real-life violence, why this only happens. Oh, yeah, no, there was a debate on that. So, yeah, no, there was a debate on Fox News where a gamer esports promoter went on Fox News to discuss the claim that video games cause violence. You know, that's right. Fox is actually pushing that narrative pretty hard at the moment. So, the inconvenient truth is both our leaders, blah, 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 they are either complacent or involved in one of the biggest betrayals of the American public in our history. The takeover of the United States government by unchecked corporations. Oh, that's not even that's a fragmented sentence. Great. I could write a 10-page essay on all the damage these corporations have caused. But here's what is important. Due to the death of the baby boomers, the increasingly anti-immigrant rhetoric of the right, and the ever-increasing Hispanic population, America will soon become a one-party state. The Democratic Party will own America, and they know it. They have already begun the transition by pandering heavily to Hispanic voting in the Democratic debate. They intend to use open borders, free health care for illegals, except that's not citizenship is required. Wait, hold on. Free healthcare for illegals, and then citizenship. My dude, if they have citizenship, they are no longer illegal immigrants. They are now citizens. You are an immigrant, but it is no longer illegal. You are a fucking citizen.
Bitches, I brought you some nondescript pizza.
Thank you. Can't at the moment. But thank you. I love you. I love you. You run away. This is assuming that all Hispanics are Democrat as well, which is awkward. Citizenship and more to enact a political coup by importing and legalizing millions of new voters. Again, they're not illegal if they have citizenship. Legality is an arbitrary thing we assign. With policies like these, the Hispanic support for Democrat will likely become nearly unanimous in the future. The heavy Hispanic population of Texas will make us a Democratic stronghold. Losing Texas and a few other states with heavy Hispanic population to the Democrats is all it would take for them to win nearly every presidential election. Really? Is that the case? Is that the case? Because currently Texas is almost always conservative. It almost unanimously votes red whenever we're talking about like presidential elections and House elections. So by that logic, having Texas as the key point means that we would always have conservative pundits, right? Except that's not what happens. That's not what happens at all. So, yeah, no. This argument is already flawed. Texas is very important. It has a lot of electoral votes. But if owning Texas was the key to everything, then we would see that we would have majority conservative all the time. That's not what happens. We generally flip back and forth. If the plan is to turn Texas blue, it's not working. Although the Republican Party is also terrible, many factions within the Republican Party are pro-corporation. Duh. Pro-corporation equals pro-immigration. Yes and no. So being pro-corporation doesn't necessarily mean that you agree with everything that corporation espouses or needs. Secondly, when it comes to the individual corporations, many of those corporations rely on money that comes in when you bring immigrants in. Like, there's data to support that immigrants actually help your economy. So if we go the economic way, then yeah, that follows, kind of, but you're trying to argue that somebody's personal principles are reflected in the people they support, as if they know everything about the people they support. You can have somebody who supports Trump and doesn't know anything, somehow, strangely, about all of his racist tendencies, about all of his dumb shit arguments, about his uninformed takes. You can have somebody who supports him. There can be somebody who supports me because they've watched only my political videos, but haven't seen my videos on atheism. You can support somebody without having the entire story. That's a pretty normal thing. Some factions within the Republican Party don't prioritize corporations over our future, so the Democrats are nearly unanimous with their support of immigration, while the Republicans are divided over it. See, that's not what I see half the time. That's not what I see half the time. Most of the time I see that Democrats are the ones cannibalizing each other, because Democrats are usually more left-leaning, and a lot of left-leaning people end up killing each other over moral high grounds, metaphorically speaking. Whereas on your conservative side, there's a lot less infighting usually. At least with Republicans, the process of mass immigration and citizenship can be greatly reduced. So he's taking Republicans as the lesser of two evils. Economic reasons. In short, immigration can only be detrimental to the future of America. Continued immigration will make one of the biggest issues of our time, automation, so much worse. So he agrees that automation is a thing that's happening. He can't really stem it. So his method of stopping something like automation is shooting Mexicans, apparently. Wait a minute. Hold on. Give me a second. Allow me a moment to try to process this. A robot is being built over there, and that robot is going to take away one cashier job. Okay? Okay. This thing is actually happening in my local Walmart. So, there's a cashier job that is being taken away by that robot. So, what are you going to do about that robot coming in? What are you going to do? I'm going to go over here and shoot a living being. That's not going to stop that robot. That's not going to stop that automation. That does nothing to stop it. This is a non sequitur. This person is as... I am equally bothered by the fact that this person is justifying the murder of people to the fact that a blatant non sequitur was used. Because the person inside me, who studies philosophy, studies debate, and sees this bothers me on a fundamental level, outside of the humanist stuff. If this person had never committed a crime, that would still bother me. Just because it's a fucking non sequitur show. Or non sequitur. Why did I even go to non sequitur show? God damn it. Fucking branding. Some sources say that in under 2 decades, half of American jobs will be lost to it. Yeah. That's fine. Because those jobs, if they do not need to be taken care of by American citizens, especially factory ones, then don't make them taken care of by the people at all. Get them automated, and then figure out a different way that these people can economically support themselves. Don't force people to work. This is the argument that Trump used for coal. Saying that, we need to open up coal again. We need to get more coal. We need to make sure that we have, clean coal was his argument. This is the argument for maintaining the status quo, regardless of the net negative, as opposed to trying to progress further, making technology work better. He says, of course, some people will be retrained, but most will not. So it makes no sense to keep on letting millions of illegal or legal immigrants flood into the United States. These have nothing to do with one another. Again, nothing. Joblessness is in itself a source of civil unrest. The less dependent on a government and welfare system, the better. The lower the unemployment rate, the better. Well, for one, joblessness is not a direct correlate with dependence on the government welfare system, because there are a very high amount of people who cannot get on any type of government welfare while being jobless. And in fact, if you had something like, say, UBI, not the way that Yang is trying to build it, because fuck that, because Yang has actually stated directly that when he's trying to build UBI, he wants to remove all of the social programs in the United States and roll them into UBI. No, that is not a good idea. That is a bad idea. Do not remove, or UBI is universal basic income. Look at Yang's policies. UBI by itself is an okay idea. If people are already paying taxes in, why the fuck not? Redistribution of wealth is not a bad thing in and of itself. It depends on how it's used. And something like UBI would help curb the problem of automation. Cool. Excellent. You've managed to do some work here. You've managed to do some good. But removing other social programs, getting rid of them, is not the way to do it. It's not the way to fund it. So, it says it lowers the unemployment rate. The lower the unemployment rate, the better. I do agree. Achieving ambitions and social projects like universal healthcare and UBI would become far more likely to succeed if tens of millions of dependents are removed. Achieving ambitions social projects, ambitious social projects like universal healthcare and UBI would become more likely to succeed with tens of millions of dependents are removed. Even though new immigrants do the dirty work, their kids typically don't. Wait, huh? What? Even though new migrants do the dirty work, the kids typically don't. They want to live the American dream, which is why they get college degrees and fill higher-paying skilled positions. This is why corporations lobby for even more illegal immigration, even after decades of it happening. They need to keep replenishing the low-skilled labor pool. Yeah, that's why automation is important. You don't have to refill the low-skilled labor pool if the low-skilled labor pool is replaced by automation, and then you can just have higher-skilled jobs. This hurts. And yeah, no, lobbying for illegal immigration is just a dumb way of wording it. If you're lobbying for immigration, you're not lobbying for illegal immigration. You're lobbying for legal citizenship of immigrants, or at least working visas. Oh my God. Even as migrant children flood skilled jobs, corporations make this work by lobbying for more work visas to be issued for skilled foreign workers to come here. Okay. Is there anything else that's even necessarily useful in this? Is there anything else in this economic portion that's important? Automation is a good thing as it will eliminate the need for new migrants to fill unskilled jobs that Americans can't survive on anyway. Yeah, he agrees there. Automation can and would replace millions of low-skilled jobs if immigrants were deported? Source of competition for skill. That doesn't... Why is this one here? The source of competition for skilled labor from immigrants and visa holders around the world has made a very difficult situation even worse for natives as they compete in the skilled job market. Why does it matter if they're native or not? They're human beings. Who the fuck cares? It feels as though, and I could be wrong, maybe this is an ad hominem. But I feel like this is somebody who tried to get a low-skilled job and was beat out, and it's the only type of job that he could have gotten, and now he's upset. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. The American lifestyle affords our citizens an incredible quality of life. However, our lifestyle is destroying the environment of our country. The decimation of the environment is increasing... Okay. Oh, this bothers me. You know what decimation means? Decimation means to remove 10%. Creating a massive burden for future generations. Corporations are heading the destruction of our environment by shamelessly over-harvesting resources. Yeah, it's been a problem for decades. For example, this phenomenon is brilliantly portrayed... Oh! I know where this is going. This is ecofash. This is ecofash. That's what this is. Am I the only one who... Am I the only one who sees this and recognizes that this is just ecofascism? That's what this person's advocating for? Am I wrong? Am I reading in the... Am I reading this incorrectly? I feel like I'm not reading that incorrectly. I feel like that's accurate. Callan says, no, Cirrus, I saw it too. Yeah, Pig came to that conclusion as well. I haven't seen Pig's thing on it yet. I haven't. But yeah, no, this is beginning to read very, very heavily like ecofash. And the way that the ecofash argument goes, 9 times out of 10, is that they go, okay, we have too many people, so we need to feed the people, and we have too many people, so we have to eliminate the people so that we don't have to feed them because feeding them is hurting the environment. Okay, yes, all that may follow, but destroying the environment or destroying the people is not the way to do that, Thanos. Fucking this dude is the least efficient Thanos possible. Because that's what Thanos was, eco-fascist. This is literally just freaking Thanos. The Soylent Green is not a versatile solution for modern living. Jared Whitaker, Sir, explain ecofash. Okay, so fascism is pure totalitarian rule. Ecofascism is pure totalitarian rule for the purposes of maintaining and sustaining the environment. So, like, let's put this in a phrase. Let's put this as if what is it? Let's put this as if Poison Ivy were to take control of the entire world in Batman. Let's go to fiction because a lot of people can understand these characters. If Poison Ivy were to take over the world, what would she do? Well, we actually have a movie called Batman and Harley Quinn where that exact thing happens. And her reasoning for doing so is that, the environment's being destroyed. The people are the reason that the environment's being destroyed. Kill all the people, the environment is saved. Well, kill all the people to control the population. And yeah, there you go. That's the reason. Totalitarian control in order to protect the environment. Do you need to protect the environment? Yes, but if your method is totalitarian control, feck right off. His gun... We don't know. We don't care about that. Statistically, millions of migrants have returned to their countries to reunite with the family that they lost contact with when they moved to America. They've come here as economic immigrants, not for asylum reasons. This is an encouraging sign that the Hispanic population is willing to return to their home countries. Okay. Let's go to his personal thoughts. His personal reasons. Oh, yeah, no. Ra's al Ghul is also a very good example of this. Ra's al Ghul was another eco-fascist. Also, I'm not trying to say that Princess Peach is an eco-fascist. I'm just putting her up there for fun. So, I've been playing Paper Mario, so we've been getting stuff from Paper Mario to use for streams. That said, though, even though we've gotten a bunch of stuff for Paper Mario to use for our streams, nothing will ever beat the face. Yeah, Yokai in Theories is right. Only the MCU version of Thanos is eco-fash. Correct. The version of Thanos in the comics is just an idiot who was horny. Also, Nightshade, the reason I don't do the gaming streams on YouTube is because my channel was actively being hurt by the algorithm by doing so. When I did my streams on YouTube, as much as I enjoyed the larger audience, because I got a larger audience for gaming on YouTube than I did for Twitch, by doing it on my channel on YouTube, I was actively destroying my channel because the algorithm would place me, the algorithm wouldn't know where to place me. Because right now, religion and politics are usually pretty intertwined. So that's fine. We get that. Religion, politics, and social issues are tied with politics and all that. Cool. So that all works. But whenever you try to add gaming into that as well, you can do gaming and politics, and that works. You could do gaming and religion, and that works. But when you try to mix all of those together, and I don't do videos that are gaming and religion, I don't really do that on my channel. As a result, the algorithm has no idea where to throw me when I'm doing that. So me streaming games to my YouTube channel was actively making the algorithm not figure out what the hell to do with me. And when as a result, my viewer base was 50% subscribers and 50% unsubscribed before, which is good. That means that people are discovering the channel. Now there's been a 10% increase in subscribed viewership, which means that I'm getting more viewership from my core audience, but it means that I'm being exposed to new people less. And while there are some people who may think that's a good idea, hell, I think if you're watching my channel, I'd question your viewership, but that's usually because I'm self-deprecating. Because I've seen those numbers change around, I realize that as much as this is a thing that I want to do, I can't. I cannot support myself on YouTube if I'm actively shooting my own YouTube channel in the foot. So, yeah. There we go. That's the reason why. I figured I'd go ahead and get into that real quick, since I was there. Alrighty. Continuing on. His personal reasons and thoughts. His whole life, he's been preparing for a future that currently doesn't exist. The job of my dreams will likely be automated. Why the job of your dreams? What job of your dreams will be automated? I'm confused. That doesn't make any sense to me. I wish I would know what job that is, because, like, what job of somebody's dreams is one that would have been taken over by automation? That's weird. Why not try streaming on a different YouTube channel? The reason I'm not doing that is because the streaming environment for Twitch is actually better for games and stuff, whereas YouTube, it seems to be better for more varied things. There's a more, supportive environment for Twitch within its ecostructure because it has things like raids that allow you to help. That's there. AJB, AJB, how come you don't look anything like your avatar? Because reality is often disappointing. Truthfully speaking. Reality is often disappointing. Sucks. Oh well. But how much I do or don't look like my avatar has nothing to do with any of my arguments. If you want to fight the arguments, cool. But if you want to fight with, haha, you're fat, yeah, no, I already know. That's fine. I get that. Hispanics will take control of the local and state governments of my beloved Texas. Hello. Reality is often disappointing. We were talking about Thanos earlier.
Yeah, I know. We're watching.
Real Cirrus kind of looks like your avatar. I mean, okay, yes, you're right. Hold on. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. For those of you who consider this the real Cirrus, then yeah, you're not individually wrong. So. It cost everything. Snaps fingers. Hey, nothing happened. Oh. The face. It will never leave. If you guys want to see me do the harvesting of all the random faces, then you guys need to go onto my Twitch channel and watch whenever I do the gaming streams. Anywho, continuing on. Says they'll turn Texas into an instrument of a political coup which will hasten the destruction of our country. You mean Texas as a swing state isn't already an instrument for politics? Okay. The environment is getting worse by the year. If you take nothing else from this document, remember inaction is a choice. Yes, I agree. We do need to help the environment. The environment is getting screwed. The answer to that is not genocide. Again, this is just Thanos. This is just a guy LARPing Thanos. That's all this is. You can no longer bear the shame of inaction, knowing that our founding fathers have endowed me with the rights I needed to save our country from the brink of destruction. Our European comrades don't have the gun rights needed to repel millions of invaders that plague their country. They have no choice but to sit by and watch their countries burn. America can only be destroyed from the inside out. If our country fails, it will be the fault of traitors. This is why I see my actions as faultless. If America can only be destroyed by the inside out, I wonder what would happen if full-scale thermonuclear war were to happen to America. That would be destruction from the inside. That would be a very outside destruction. Jack and Quill, I, for one, welcome our new robot overlords. As you do. As you do. Okay. Continuing on. People who are hypocrites because they support imperialistic wars that have caused the loss of tens of thousands of American lives and untold numbers of civilian lives. The argument that mass murder is okay when it is state sanctioned is absurd. Our government has killed a lot more people for a whole lot less. Wait a minute. Hold on. If the argument that mass murder is okay when a state sanctioned it is absurd, then why is it okay when you do it? That's awkward. I wasn't sure the founding fathers were like, please have this single-shot musket so that you can murder the Browns. Yeah, I don't think that's what happened. I don't think that was the case. But apparently that seems to be apparently seems to be what he thinks. He is against race mixing because it destroys genetic diversity and creates identity problems. It only creates an identity problems when you tie your identity to your race. I don't give 12 fucks that I'm white. I don't. He's against race mixing because it destroys genetic diversity. Actually, that's not a good argument because genetic diversity exists within races. Insofar as racist is even cogent. Like, as far as racial genetics is cogent in any way, shape, or form, you still have within arbitrary races more genetic diversity than this guy thinks. Obviously, he's incredibly fucking ill-informed. I'm now wondering why this didn't happen in Alabama. He says it's completely unnecessary and selfish. Second and third generations Hispanic form interracial unions at much higher rates than average. Yet another reason to send them back. Again, that has nothing to... If you like somebody, then just enjoy your company with them. It doesn't matter. Cultural and racial diversity is largely temporary. Cultural diversity diminishes as stronger and or more appealing cultures overtake the weaker and or undesirable ones. Wait a minute, hold on. Hold on. So, if his argument is that racial diversity is temporary and cultural diversity is temporary, then he recognized that it's inevitable. We need Braz to come in with another Thanos meme where he says, I am inevitable. Cultural diversity diminishes as stronger or more appealing cultures overtake weaker and or undesirable ones. So, wait a minute. I'm sure that he would agree that America is not a weak nation, nor is our culture, and if he deems our culture as the more desirable one, then it should actually be pretty bulwarked against this, shouldn't it? I would think. His own arguments undermine his point. And Raz comes in with the I am inevitable Thanos memes. As you do. Genetic diversity isn't based on phenotypical expression, so race mixing just doesn't affect it. Just saying. If I selected a random group of 100,000 white people and 100,000 black people, they would be just as genetically diverse. Your race has nothing to do with your genetic diversity. Immortal Warrior, this is not an article. This is the manifesto for the El Paso your phrase. We believe, it has not been fully confirmed, but we believe that this is the manifesto for the El Paso shooter. Racial diversity will disappear as either race mixing or genocide will take place. But the idea of deporting or murdering all non-white Americans is horrific. Many have been here as long as the whites, and have done as much to build our country. The best solution to this for now would be to divide America into a confederacy of territories with at least one territory for each race. This is just ethnostatism! This is just ethnostatism. That's all this is. He's just like, we can't make America a white ethno-state, but I could make Texas a white ethno-state. That's what this is. That is all this fucking is. It is eco-fascistic ethno-statism. Yay. Great. Also, we received a $7.77 from Zero. Genetic diversity isn't based on phenotypical expression, so race mixing doesn't affect it. Just saying. Oh yeah, no, I already went over that. I forgot, literally, within the last 2 minutes, I went over that. This is why I take notes in debates. I walk away from debates with like 3 pages of notes, because without them, I literally just... It just goes away. It just goes away. Why always the ethno-states? I don't know. I don't get the appeal. I don't. If I were to look around and just go, oh, look, everyone around me is significantly as white and less brown than they were 10 years ago, that wouldn't mean shit to me. It doesn't matter. Ethno-states don't solve anything. The physical separation would nearly eliminate race mixing and improve social unity by granting each race self-determination within their respective territories. My death is likely inevitable. If I'm not killed by the police, then I'll probably be gunned down by one of the invaders. This is the same thing that the Christ shooter said in his manifesto when he labeled Muslims as the invaders. Because in his manifesto, he went to France and was repulsed by the amount of people he saw around him that were brown. I'm getting really tired of reading mass shooter manifestos. But because I'm a skeptic, I end up having to. What a freaking weird thing. Why read it if that's what he wanted to do? Because it's important to understand why people do the things that they do. That is very important. You cannot tackle an issue like this without understanding why people are doing what they are doing. If you cannot understand the why behind why somebody went and decided to do something horrific, then how do you plan on solving it? How do you plan on stopping more people if you can't figure out why somebody did something? That's why. It's a disgusting look at some of the worst annals of human history, but you have to do it. Because if you don't do it, then you don't understand why people acted the way that they did. And if you can't figure out that, then you can't solve the fucking problem. It says, capture in this case is far worse than dying during the shooting because I'll get the death penalty anyway. Which is funny because he actually that is actually being considered for him right now. Worse still is that I would live knowing that my family despises me. This is why I'm not going to surrender even if I run out of ammo. If I'm captured, it will be because I was subdued. Remember, it's not cowardly to pick low-hanging fruit, aka don't attack heavily armed guard areas to fulfill your super soldier COD fantasy. Attack low-security targets. Even though you might outgun a security guard or policeman, they will likely beat you in armor, training, and numbers. Do not throw away your life on an unnecessarily dangerous target. If a target seems too hot, live to fight another day. This is literally just a bully saying I pick on people who are weaker than me because I'm assured success. And then Prison News says, sir, should tackle black supremacist pseudoscience as well. Agreed. I actually know one black supremacist who I want to tackle at some point. I actually already have his name. That's a thing that I will be having to do at some point. Not yet. Building up to that. But it is a problem. My ideology has not changed for several years. My opinions on automation, immigration, and the rest of this predate Trump and his campaign for president. Putting this here because some people will blame the president for certain presidential candidates for the attack. Correct. I don't think that this is a Trump issue. I think Trump is part of the problem, but this is not a thing where you can say, Donald Trump, you have blood on your hands. No, he doesn't. The dude's an idiot. The dude is part of the problem. He's not the problem. I hate that I have to agree with the person in the manifesto for like half a second here. Says this is not the case. I know that the media will probably call me a white supremacist anyway and blame Trump's rhetoric. Well, you are basically being a white supremacist because, well, So the functional difference between white supremacy and ethnostatism, I can't see one. Because if you think that your culture is better separated from another culture, then there is something about your culture that you deem superior that warrants it being separated from everyone else's. You can claim that that's not the case, but I don't see it. I don't. It says the media is infamous for fake news. The reaction to this will likely just confirm that. At least we agree there. Again, news outlets are almost always biased in some way, shape, or form. Many people think that the fight for America is already lost. They couldn't be more wrong. This is just the beginning of the fight for America in Europe, and I'm honored to lead the fight to reclaim my country from destruction. So, if this is, in fact, his manifesto, which, again, we have not confirmed that entirely, then this is disturbing. And it is incredibly problematic. Isn't the word I want to use for that. I don't. It's a very weak word for what words I do want to use. But the actual words I want to use don't come to mind. However, if this is not his manifesto and this is just somebody's meme on 8chan, also could be the case, then it points to another issue. It points to a huge societal issue that leads to this being okay. For what it's worth, I don't know what the problem is, because I don't think that you can boil this down to one issue that needs to be solved. There are certainly a lot of problems. White supremacy is one. Anybody thinking that their ethnic group in general is supreme to another ethnic group is a fucking problem. White supremacy, black supremacy, I don't care. It just happens that this one seems to be a white supremacist who thinks it's okay to go shoot brown people. The manifesto's legit. The gear selection gives it away. Fair enough. So, I think that that's an issue. Now, what enables that? Well, we have a few cultural problems that I think need to be addressed here in the States, but I don't know how to address them. I would feel like for the issue of the gun culture, I don't think there's much I can do about that. I don't even think there's a functional way to change that. This is not even really an Overton window issue. Guns are woven into the fabric of America's identity at this point. I don't think there's an effective way to solve that. I don't. If you guys think there is in the chat, let me know. But this is not, again, this is not an issue of just guns in America, they bad. No, there's a culture around those guns that enables this. But we talked about that. Something was dropped on my lap. Something was dropped on my lap before this. Before I started this stream. And I haven't had a chance to check it out in its entirety yet. So please take this information with a grain of salt, because unlike some of the studies in here, I have not had a chance to go over it, and I've not had a chance to research them as thoroughly as I otherwise would. But I do find that these are important. So, we do have one study that shows that action alters object identification. Wielding a gun increases bias to see guns. This is a study from 2012. Stereotypes and expectations of emotions. Are we seeing that? Okay, cool. I need to go ahead and make this a little easier to see. Where is the source? Let's make this a little easier. Why is that so hard to see? And... no, bad. See, if all websites used a uniform format, I wouldn't have this problem. But they don't. So I end up having to to go through hoops. You know, I'm not streaming. It automatically said that I was streaming on Twitch, but that is not the case. Anywho. Of course I messed this up again. Let's... There we go. That's somewhat more legible. Stereotypes, expectations, and emotions influence an observer's ability to detect and categorize objects as guns. In light of recent work in action, perception, interactions, however, there's another unexplored factor that may be critical. The action choices available to the perceiver in 5 experiments determined whether another person was holding a gun or a neutral object. Critically, the participant did this while holding and responding with either a gun or a neutral object. Responding with a gun biased observers to report gun present more than did responding with a ball. Thus, by virtue of affording a perceiver the opportunity to use a gun, he or she was more likely to classify objects in a scene as a gun, and as a result, to engage in threat-inducing behavior, raising a firearm to shoot, in addition to theoretical implications for every perception and object identification. These findings have practical implications for law enforcement and public safety. So apparently, wielding a gun seems to be a factor in your threat assessment index. You assess somebody as more threatening if you happen to be more threatening yourself. That's an interesting find. Now again, I've not had a chance to look at the entirety of this article, so I'm not going to go over the entire thing. So please take what I've said with a grain of salt. Like with anything, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. Please look into my sources. Please fact check me. Please go in and make sure that I am providing information that is at least factual. There's a reason that so many of my videos have addendums on them, because whenever somebody does that, and they do find something that is wrong, and I catch it when they see it, then I will throw that into an addendum. For a reason. This is not the only thing that was landed on my lap, though. This was from Kirix, who was having the gun debate discussion with me yesterday while on stream. We have another study. Holding a gun makes you think that others are too, new research shows. March 1st, 2012. These seem to be close in proximity, actually. Where are you? Where was the... Action alters. October 2012. And March 21st, 2012. Okay, so these are different studies then. These are different. Wielding a gun increases person's bias to see guns in the hands of others. So this is another study that shows that seeing guns in the hands of others is increased, or seeing, essentially, having a higher threat index of yourself increases your threat index of others. So, again, this is a source. Science Daily. Holding a gun makes you think others are too. Research shows from the University of Notre Dame. Please take a look at it. I'm going to make sure that these are both linked in my description. That way you guys can look over them as well. Because I believe that they are linked there. Correction? Yes. Yes, they are. Wielding a gun and perception of others are both in there. in my sources. So, that said, this is what I could find from data. This is what I could find from sourcing, and this is what I could find from the manifesto itself. My personal opinion? There are a lot of problems and they need to be solved. The problems don't boil down to guns bad. The problems don't boil down to Trump bad. The problems don't boil down to brown people bad. Apparently this person thinks that a lot of them do. It's a complicated issue. There's a lot of shit to look through when it comes to this. There's a lot of factors that need to be considered. There's a huge societal factor. And I've provided some stuff for you guys to go over. That way you can see a little bit of the research that's gone into this. That said, we are at an hour and a half. I've gone over as much as I wanted to go over. We managed to get through the entire manifesto. If YouTube decides to knock this video off, that would kind of suck. But again, at the same time, it's just what'll happen. YouTube's going to do what it's going to do. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. If you did, let me know. Leave a like. Do the bell notification thing. All the other fun stuff. Subscribe if you haven't already. I've brought as much to bear as I think I can on this issue, for the time being. There might be something else that comes up. If so, then I will get into that on another episode. But I think this is the only full stream I'm going to do on it for the time being, because, well, this. So, I hope you guys enjoyed, and this will be me signing off.